been in a venture home program, so it's very exciting. I thought I would just give you a little bit of background about how we came to have a WiSys VentureHome Eau Claire program and an entity here. So I looked back in my notes, and it was August 2018 when a group of us gathered, summer, hot day, we gathered in Schneider Hall at UW-Eau Claire. I had convened a group just because several of us from different organizations in Eau Claire had reached out to Accelerator, which is a accelerator program known across the US, based in Madison. And several of us had been thinking individually and a little bit collectively about, wouldn't it be great to bring an accelerator program to Eau Claire and to sort of begin taking our ecosystem, which we felt was growing and becoming stronger, to a new level. So we gathered, had a great discussion out of that, and then gathered again in November of 2018. There is, of course, a significant cost to bring a program like that to a community. So we had some early conversations about that. Excuse me. And then I would say conversations were bubbling up a little bit here and there. And one of the key conversations that I got to be part of was in getting to know Arjun Sangha from WiSys. And he had been part of that first August meeting, had seen the collaborative spirit and the organizations coming together to seek to take our entrepreneurial ecosystem to the next level. So we began having conversations, and I would say in the spring of 2019 was when really seriously what Arjun and WiSys were trying to do in the state of Wisconsin sort of came together with what we were trying to do in Eau Claire. And we began having conversations about what if Eau Claire became the first pilot of a program called VentureHome. And here we are. We kicked off in February of last year. It is fun to see how these things come together. It is not something that UW-Eau Claire, well, we are one piece of it, and that's important, but the strength of this is in the collaboration. And so I'm just delighted that that UW-Eau Claire could partner with WiSys and then partner with CoLab, which really is what allowed it to happen. And an early coffee that I had with Elaine was instrumental in that. Didn't know how well CoLab would mesh with this sort of vision that we were talking about. But it did come together, and I'm so grateful and for the partnership with Elaine and CoLab and Adira and WiSys as well. It's exciting to see how it came together, and exciting to think about where it's going because that is still to evolve. As you know, we've kicked off our pilot program. As with pilots, they can be a little rough at times around the edges as we learn and find out what goes well, what doesn't go as well. We are thankful for that pilot group and all that we have learned, and hopefully that they have learned. And we are excited to improve on that experience and to keep evolving as a program. So I'm going to kick it back to Elaine now, who will talk about CoLab and why it is a fit for them.
Great, thank you, Anne. So yeah, CoLab, we are a co-working space in downtown Eau Claire. We've been open about a year and a half. Obviously the last 6+ months, not so much open. We are open to our members, but not the public. So our goal and our mission is to really drive community and provide networking opportunities, and that's through resources and programming. But our big underlying mission is to help entrepreneurs. And that could be from taking them from here to here or just connecting them with someone. But our mission is to truly help entrepreneurs. And this is why it is such a good fit for us to partner with WiSys and the entrepreneurship program in Anne. And so we were really excited to do this as we quickly realized to truly help our entrepreneurs, it would need to be a collaboration effort. We can get as many members as we want through the door, but but there is time and resources, and a collaboration was the way to go in truly helping the entrepreneurs. We were excited to provide space and a hub of sorts for this accelerator. As you know, COVID, so we weren't able to do it this time around as we were virtual. The idea was that we would provide free space to those part of the program. They can come in, use our conference rooms. They can have peer meetings together in there. They could bring in potential clients. They can just use the space as a true member with all of the amenities. So we were really excited to be part of that as we look to help entrepreneurs. So like Anne said, it was a great fit, totally in line with our mission. And like I said before, we couldn't do it alone, and this seems to be going very well so far. So we're happy to continue moving forward through this partnership. I'm going to kick it over to Adir now.
Thanks, Elaine. Yeah, and I think Anne and Elaine, you guys have covered the background and the origin story, if you will, really well. I promised I would tell you a little bit about WiSys, so let me start there. So WiSys is an independent nonprofit organization that is affiliated with the UW system. We're also the official tech transfer office of the UW system for the 11 regional campuses. So UW universities, not including Madison and Milwaukee. And those are the campuses that WiSys serves. And, you know, we focus a lot of our efforts on how do we encourage innovation on campus. And, you know, we put together lots of events. We work with inventors and faculty and staff and students who might have an idea. We help them through the patenting process, through the licensing process. But about 2 years ago, I think around maybe 2.5 years ago now, around the same time that Eau Claire was having these discussions, WiSys was also thinking about, well, how do we take all of this energy and enthusiasm that we're seeing and provide support for the entrepreneurs that we're encountering. And that's where the idea of VentureHome came from. So the basic idea is that eventually we would have a VentureHome in all, if not many, if not all of the regional campuses of the UW universities, and that would form a network of startup hubs, right? So if there's an expertise that's available in, let's say, Platteville, and there's an Eau Claire entrepreneur who's interested in that area or that vertical, then we're able to connect them not just to the amazing community that's in Eau Claire, but the amazing communities that are in all of these other regional campuses. So like it was mentioned, this is sort of it's a partnership between WiSys, the local community, and the regional campus. And the reason we wanted to do it this way is, you know, as WiSys, we have our own statewide network and footprint and resources that we have access to. And as a university, you know, Eau Claire has lots of events and lots of programming and lots of activity in the entrepreneurial space. And obviously in the local community of Eau Claire, you know, there's a lot of activity and excitement there too. And the idea was with VentureHome, not to replicate any of the things that are already existing in the Eau Claire ecosystem, but to maybe connect all of them together so that you have one place you can go to access these different resources. But then also to maybe think about, well, are there any gaps in the Eau Claire ecosystem that we can help fill through WiSys's statewide connections and connections to the other universities? Next, please. So let's talk about accelerators. Like I said, you know, each VentureHome is very locally driven. So VentureHome Eau Claire, for example, would look very different from a VentureHome in any of our other regional campuses. Anne and Elaine did an amazing job of putting together a local steering committee. And when they had these discussions about, well, what does Eau Claire really need? What could we benefit from? I think the resounding answer was a seed accelerator. So before I talk too much about the seed accelerator, I just wanted to kind of discuss the terminology. You know, the terms like accelerator and incubator get thrown around a lot. And so there's often a lot of confusion about what it means to be an accelerator or what it means to be an incubator. So very generally, an incubator basically gives startup companies time and space to figure out what they're doing, to figure out their business model or to validate their business model. And usually this is associated with the physical space where they might have, you know, people coming in and doing lectures or events. But it's really very much self-driven. The company's using that space, using shared resources with other startup companies, and working through whatever their milestones are. So very similar to what CoLab offers to startups and entrepreneurs, and also, you know, small businesses. An accelerator, on the other hand, is, as the name suggests, it's intended to accelerate the growth of the company. So there's a little bit, so it's a more involved program. You know, and we might have educational programming, there might be mentoring. You know, often they're providing different resources based on what kind of an accelerator it is. And then the other critical piece that accelerators often provide is sort of connection and exposure for the startup companies to pitch their idea to community members, partners, investors, potential clients, who have you. So I think the really cool and unique thing about the Eau Claire Seed Accelerator is that because it's a partnership with CoLab, we kind of have the best of both worlds. So the accelerator program provides you with those programming elements and mentorship and you know, connecting to various resources. But then being with CoLab, you also have that the aspect of a physical space where you have shared resources, where you can go and have a quiet moment, or have, you know, a little meeting with your co-founder or your, you know, your clients or your investor. So I think there's a lot of synergy between the offerings from WiSys, Eau Claire, and CoLab. So very briefly, you know, one of the things that we're kind of focused on is, as a through our connections with the statewide network, you know, we are also connected to ideas and technologies that are coming out of the entire UW system, including Madison and Milwaukee, because we do work closely with their tech transfer offices. So through VentureHome, you know, one of the goals is that how do we connect entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs to technologies that have taken years and, you know, potentially millions of dollars to develop and are sitting on a shelf waiting for someone with an entrepreneurial spirit to come and commercialize it. So making some of those connections, but then also, if you already have an idea or a startup, you know, are there technologies that exist that you can leverage to improve your product offering rather than having to build everything from scratch? So I'll stop there and pass it back over to Elaine, and she can talk to you a little bit more about what are the specific offerings of VentureHome Eau Claire Seed Accelerator.
Great, thank you, Adira. So like I said, one of the big perks of being a partner with CoLab is that the founders get a free membership to CoLab. So that would be included in our Flex membership, meaning you can come and go as you need, access to resources such as the technology with Zoom meetings, coffee, which is very important, our Wi-Fi, our printing, the meeting rooms, the soft spaces where you can have those more intimate meetings like Adira was talking about, and then events that we put on. Through VentureHome, we do some specific events that we would host there that you would have access to, but then CoLab also has its separate programming that you would also have access to. And a lot of times for our members, it's either free or at a high discount cost to the member. So that's an exciting offering that we were pleased to give to the founders of VentureHome. guidance and accountability from the VentureHome network of entrepreneurs and industry experts. So this is really exciting and kind of part of that whole collaboration piece. By partnering with WiSys, we have access to, and as you can see, the next one, statewide resources and other folks within the state that we wouldn't have otherwise. And so working with Adira and Anne and myself, we have weekly meetings with the founders just to make sure they're hitting those milestones. Maybe there's a connection that needs to be made, and then we can easily tap into each of our networks and make that happen, which is really exciting and something that would be hard to do if we were all separate. And then the local and statewide entrepreneurial resources. We have lots of local resources that are even free here in the Chippewa Valley, and happily guide people that way, but sometimes it takes something a little outside of that. Maybe someone's looking for advice in a way that can't be served here in Eau Claire. So we reach out to Adira. What does her network look like throughout the state? There might be someone in a different community that has expertise or research within that area that we can connect you to. So it could be something like in the medical field, and we have great resources here in Eau Claire, but there might be something outside of that. Office hours with professionals in finance, legal, intellectual property, marketing, sales, etc. This is part of that programming I was speaking to. Once we start working with the founders, we kind of figure out where everyone's at and how we can best serve them. And a lot of times that is within the realm of these listed. And then the etc. is, it could be much more than that. If we feel there's something else we want to bring in terms of programming to the cohort, that's what we seek out once we learn more about this group of individuals and maybe some co-founders. Concierge access to UW technologies and scientific experts. Again, that's through a partnership with WiSys, something we wouldn't have access to otherwise, especially in the realm of the UW. It seems very inaccessible as a community member to have access to anything within the university system. Especially if you're not an alumni or part of the faculty, staff, or a student. So through the partnership with UW-Eau Claire and WiSys working with like UW-Madison, we have really great access now to something we wouldn't have had otherwise. So that's special and unique to this program. Practice and pitch to investors and key partners. This was something that was really exciting as we went through the program and where we started to see a lot of traction from our founders when we brought up, hey, you're going to actually pitch to investors. We're going to bring a group of investors and key partners and community members to a Zoom room, unfortunately. And in the other world, it would have been in person. And in real time, you're going to pitch your business. And so that's what we just did about a month ago. We brought, I think it was almost like 70 folks together with about 12 investment groups and a lot of partners and community members. And in real time, each founder pitched their business. And then we sent them into breakout rooms, which mostly went well. We had some, tech difficulties because Zoom, but for the most part, it felt very much like it would if we were in person, which was really exciting. So it gave our founders visibility, gave them access to investors they might not normally have access to. And so building some of those bridges and filling gaps of connecting people in that way. And then eligibility to apply for the WiSys Seed Fund. That is a work in progress as far as I know, but there is potential to have access to apply for a seed fund through WiSys. And the only way to do that is to go through this program. So any founder that completes the program eventually, hopefully will have the opportunity to apply for a seed fund through WiSys. Anne and Adira, if I missed anything or you have anything to add, please feel free to chime in.
I think, Anne, are you going to speak to who's eligible?
Yep.
Okay.
I am. Just to chime in on what Elaine said, though, I just have to say that it really is that third from last bullet, access. It's not like I didn't, being in the UW system, didn't have some connections across the state. But what I have appreciated is just the ease of access now that we have, that just working with Adira, I have that easy contact to, hey, do you know somebody in your system that could help this person? Or, you know, she has an expertise I don't have. And so I can reach out to her and connect. And same with Elaine, she has a different network than I have perhaps. And so it's that ease of connection that I've really appreciated. Okay, so next slide, and I know you are eager to hear from a couple of the participants from our pilot cohort, as am I. So this is the last slide before we kind of introduce that panel of two to you. But if you are thinking about applying to VentureHome, please do. There are very little limitations. You do not have to be a UW-Eau Claire student. You can be, we encourage that. You can be faculty or staff or alumni, but WiSys has even removed that sort of, I don't know, barrier, if you will. It's really open to anyone. So feel free to apply. And in the chat right now, Adira has placed the link to it. So who is a good fit for this? I would say we are particularly trying to fill a gap. So we have great resources in and around Eau Claire through our SBDC, through the Women's Business Center that serves both women and men, through SCORE and other things. But we are really trying to fill a gap or add to what we already had in Eau Claire. And so one of the things that we had looked at was really a desire to help businesses that want to scale. And so that is one thing that would be attractive to the steering committee as they look at applicants, is do you have a business that you are seeking to and looking to scale? But one of the phrases that we've landed on internally lately is really that we want to help a business level up, take their business to the next level. That is really what we're about. Not that they can't do that without us, but that we can come alongside and help that business go to the next level. And also, if an entrepreneur is looking or is knowing that at some point they might need investment capital, whether that be angel investor or some other sort of investor, that might be a way that we can help bring people alongside them that have already gone for investment and succeeded, and also through that final pitch that we can introduce them to some potential investors. So apply if you are intrigued. If you have more questions, reach out. And now I'm going to turn it back to Elaine so you can hear from a couple of the entrepreneurs in our first pilot cohort.
Thank you, Anne. All right, I am pleased to introduce our panel for today. Like Anne or Adira or both mentioned, this was a pilot program. We had a plan at the beginning, and then it changed and evolved as we went through it, true to entrepreneurship. And so we are excited to have two founders that were part of this first pilot cohort to talk about their experience and just give you some insight as to how it went for them and how it could go for you. So we've got, there we go. We've got Jim McDougall with Upstream and Aaron Akala with Aloe Photo. Maybe Jim and Aaron, you can both unmute real quick and just give a little background of your business, and then we can dive into the VentureHome specific questions. Jim, you can go first.
Oh, you're very good at just diffusing that awkwardness, aren't you, Elaine? Well, thank you everyone for being here today. As Elaine mentioned, I'm Jim McDougall. I'm the founder and CEO of a startup in Eau Claire that we have named Upstream. We are developing the first ever completely wireless and decentralized audiovisual system to enable classrooms and meeting rooms and event centers to eliminate the costs of hardwiring solutions together. We founded sort of officially and full-time, or at least I was, about a year and a half ago. And in that time, we've been developing out our business models. We have been developing out our pitch, and we have our pilot system that we are deploying to our early customers currently. COVID is, as with everything, wreaking havoc on those plans, as some of our pilot customers have completely shut down their offices or their spaces. and we're not sure when we're going to get back in there, but we continue to develop out our product to meet their needs. And meanwhile, we are actively pitching to investors and looking for our first commitments in order to open up our round before the end of the year.
Thanks, Jim. Aaron?
Hello, I'm Aaron Akala. I am one of the owners of Allo Photo, and I'm also the director of sales. So Allo Photo is a software that simplifies a photographer's ability to run their business so they can focus on capturing the memories and moments. So what it is basically just a CRM style or a social media style CRM for photographers. And down the line in the future, we plan to expand into multiple freelance industries. So VentureHome was a great program, and I'm happy to be here to talk about it a little bit more.
Great, thank you both. All right, so we'll dive into the first question, and maybe we'll do the same order we just did the introductions. And Jim, maybe you can answer first, and then we'll go to Aaron. But the first question being, why did you apply to the program? What interested you in applying?
Two things really. First off, to support the establishment of a program like this in Eau Claire. And the other is the opportunity to work with and connect with other entrepreneurs. There's not a strong culture of starting ventures in the Eau Claire area, despite the impression that a Jamf style business being founded here creates not a lot of that activity happens, and that which does is very fragmented. And so this was an opportunity to meet others who were like-minded and had similar sorts of goals, but also contribute in any way that I could towards something that would expand on that culture that just kind of barely exists here. From a more, I guess, tactical perspective, to seek the expertise and advice of the steering committee and the program administrators, and also to expand our network of advisors outside of the Eau Claire area were some of the other motivators.
Aaron, why did you apply?
So we applied mainly because it was a good opportunity to expand our entrepreneurial connections. WiSys, we were already in the App Start Challenge through Allo Photo. So WiSys VentureHome was just kind of the next logical step for us to keep progressing our app idea into a business. So that was kind of, it just kind of all fell into place. Since we were already working with WiSys, it just made sense to continue working with them in another program. So it mainly started as we wanted to expand those entrepreneurial connections, and it definitely didn't disappoint in that aspect. We also felt it would be a good way to expand our business knowledge and work with a group of peers to kind of refine and get feedback on our business ideas and plans. So that's kind of what led us to apply and get into the program.
Great. And now that you've both completed the program, can you speak to some of the value you took from it? I'm sure, and hopefully it matched up with some of those expectations of why you applied. But if you can speak to that, start with you again, Jim.
Sounds good. So yeah, value that we took from it, greater connection with the entrepreneurial activities in the Eau Claire area. There's not a tremendous number of people who were involved that I hadn't already met in one form or another, but deepening those relationships and having a sense that I can rely on their expertise has been crucial to, I guess I would say, having the courage and the strength to keep going during very difficult times. Developing out, a greater list of partners with whom I can share ideas and ask for advice and support. And then very specifically, a better pitch and an appreciation for the importance of this method for packaging your business. I'm an engineer, I'm trained as an engineer. Everything I do comes out as a PowerPoint presentation. And so to get people with very different perspectives and very different backgrounds to help with that really forced me to acknowledge how important that was and how much time it took to really get it right.
Great. And Aaron?
So I would say one of the biggest things we learned from Venture Home is that if you have a question, ask someone. This program connected us to so many people in the business community that even if the people we know don't know the answer, the people they know probably do. So it's just there's a large network of resources that you get from this program. And it's everywhere from professional to peer resources. So, for example, I met with Jim in the early times of the program because, like he said, he's done software stuff, and I'm business, so I have a business background. I didn't know anything about developing an app. So we met with him to talk about some of the app stuff and development costs. And he gave us a ballpark number of what it would cost to develop the app. And when we got the quote, it was actually exactly what we were quoted by the development team. So it turned out that that peer resource gave us the answer we needed before we even got an official quote from a development team. So while I would say Jim was professional most of the time, I would consider him a peer resource.
My goal isn't necessarily to be professional most of the time, so I'll take that.
We were also connected to a wide range of professional resources through the steering committee and statewide presenters and things. So there were so many takeaways from this program, it's hard to just talk about them all in this short amount of time. But the connections we made were definitely the most valuable, I would say.
Great, thank you. I have another question, but I see one in the chat from Hal directed towards you too. I think I'll read that. He's curious to hear a little bit more about how you were able to leverage the connections to other professionals and experts to improve or guide your business. Is there a database, or how are people connected to each other? And maybe that's more of a question for us. But if either of you can speak to that.
I guess just to what Aaron said, asking, and we would meet regularly with, with Elaine and with Adira and with Anne, and we talk about what our struggles are, and they would think about how they can help either directly or by making a connection. One that I'll mention specifically, Adira is very familiar with the Merlin Mentor Program in Wisconsin, and connected me through to their program administrator, and I applied to participate in that and was accepted and have received tremendous benefit from the group of mentors that they assigned, who have, engineering, sales, and a lot of business background. And so there's not really a database other than LinkedIn if you want to meet someone, see if someone is connected. But asking for help in certain areas allowed us to kind of think about how we could provide that help.
And I would say a little on that. I would say Adira was really the main person that can connect you to anyone based on what that person does. She's just kind of the one that knows what everyone does and knows how to get a hold of that person and can just do it and get them. So there's not a database, but if you email Adira, she was back to us within the day, and she would get you connected right away. So it's kind of just the people in the program are more what gets you connected rather than a database or anything like that. We did use Slack though quite a bit, so that was also a useful resource for kind of knowing a little bit more about what the members of the steering committee could be good at or things like that. So it's more about the people that'll get you connected than necessarily the technology or other resources like that.
And I can speak to the database question. First off, thanks, Aaron. I think you might be overselling me a little bit here. In terms of a database, on the back end of it, I do have a database in the sense of, there's a list of mentors and connections that we have. like Jim mentioned, a lot of that is my LinkedIn, my own LinkedIn connections. And I'm sure Anne and Elaine have similar personal databases. But there's also several other types of databases, right? I mean, there's the connections that we're making to people and professionals, but there's also the technology database. And does that exist that anybody can access? Absolutely. I mean, you can go to WARF's website or WiSys's website or UW-Milwaukee Research Foundation's website and, do a patent search and see what kind of technologies exist. But the real value that we're trying to bring is more of that concierge service, right? So it's not just, well, go to this website and, do a Google search. It's more about, well, if this is your interest, let's think outside the box. Let's, brainstorm ideas of what might be able to help you and then make that connection. So it's a lot more personalized than saying, here's the database, go look at it.
I like to think of it as it's access to the folks who have our own personal networks and the Rolodex. So through conversation, we think of the connection we're flipping through mentally. Who can I connect with what? I think this program is very much based on personal, professional relationships. And that makes it way more genuine and meaningful, I think. So a database of sorts, Hal, if that helps answer the question. All right, so I'm going to ask one more question of our panel here before we dive into Q&A. So I guess Aaron and Jim, who would you encourage to apply for the next cohort? Jim, I'll start with you.
I would say prospective entrepreneurs who are in the idea phase of their business. I think the program and the connections that come from it serve the greatest value in helping you really flesh out your idea and go through the process of saying, what does it take to turn my experience and any ideas that I have into a viable business model? I think that's really kind of where the sweet spot is as the program starts to grow and mature over time and new locations are added that may change. But I think right now, if you're thinking about getting into it, you've got an idea and you want some support, great idea to apply. If you're a little further along than that, it's also a great idea to apply. But that would be sort of the sweet spot, is the a little bit earlier side.
And Aaron?
Yeah, and I would say really anybody with a business idea that they want to develop further could really greatly benefit from the program. Again, the connections that Adira, Elaine, and Anne have provided us with can help any young entrepreneur get started. We worked a lot with WiSys through the App Start Challenge. So Adira was kind of there through a lot of our other meetings through the App Start Challenge too. So we worked a lot with her, but I know other members of the cohort worked well with their steering committee members or things like that. So it's a great program for really any entrepreneur that wants to further develop an idea, is what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you too for being part of our short, small little panel. Hopefully you provided some insight and encouragement for folks to apply. And we do want to open it up to question and answer portion. We do have a question from Lindsay. If an entrepreneur is planning to purchase an existing business, but looking to expand it to include new products, services, and create new jobs, would that potentially be an eligible applicant? Anne, did you want to take this one?
Sure, I would say go ahead and apply. My question for you would be, do you feel like you are considering yourself a founder? Are you considering scaling? As we mentioned earlier, that's not a requirement, but that makes you rise to the top a little bit more as an applicant. So it's hard without a further conversation maybe, but I would say if it seems like it's a good fit to you, convey that through the application, or any of us would be happy to talk to you at another time too, if that would be helpful. So feel free to reach out if you'd like a further conversation on that.
And I would also like to add, this session is focused on the Seed Accelerator, but really the mission of VentureHome is a lot broader than that. So if you think you're not a good fit for the accelerator, maybe you're further along, or maybe you're not thinking about a scalable business, still go ahead and make that connection, because part of what we do is also connect you to other statewide resources. So if our accelerator is not the right fit, then there might be other programs, either with the SBDC or with the Law and Entrepreneurship Clinic, or we've got other connections that we can loop you into without you being a part of the accelerator per se.
Great, thank you both. So like I said, we're opening it up to question and answer. So feel free to open the participants tab and raise your hand. Otherwise, I think we're a small enough group. If no one's talking, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask a question.
I have a question.
All right, go for it.
So I am working on my startup and product development, and I am alone in it currently. And I feel like I could really use a co-founder, because I will lose motivation. I will just stop working altogether because there's nobody holding me accountable. So not that I necessarily need a co-founder. I'm looking for one. I mean, startups are much more successful if you have one. But for my situation, any recommendations?
Kyle, did you say that you were at UW-Oshkosh?
Correct, yeah.
One thing that comes immediately to mind is I know Oshkosh and Green Bay aren't the same thing.
I'm from Green Bay,
as an Eau Claire person, it might seem that we all think that whole area is the same, but the tech hub there that's run by the Greater Green Bay Chamber has some very specific programming around that, run by Matthew Key. He also runs the Tundra Angels group. I see him post a lot about some of the programming he does in trying to connect people to prospective co-founders or technical talent. So maybe some opportunities there to look into that's, in your region, which means you might be able to make that personal connection as opposed to something virtual.
And am I still able to, if I were to look further into the VentureHome, would I be able to do that from Oshkosh, or is that for Eau Claire?
So the VentureHome program is actually open as of right now to all 11 WiSys campuses. So I think Anne put the link in there. The Eau Claire link. But if you just go to venturehome.org, there's a place where you can connect with me, and then we can also see who we can connect to that might be closer to your region. What we've said is we are not going to, especially for this cohort, which is most likely going to be all virtual, we're not going to restrict it by region. I think going forward, when we are starting to have more in-person things, there will be certain requirements of, you need to attend X number of meetings in person, and that might get tricky. But I think for this cohort, correct me if I'm wrong, Anne, but we are accepting applicants from outside of the Eau Claire area.
And that's just under the Get Assistance tab, but I fill out all that information and then it would go to somebody.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Kyle, there's also an Apply tab right below the Get Assistance under the Eau Claire page if you hit the link in the chat, if you want to officially apply. But of course, you can do the assistance one too. Many ways to get in touch with us and move forward.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I like that you're looking for a co-founder or a group or peers to hold you accountable. And I think that's a real benefit of this program, is that accountability factor. Adira has created something called the milestone worksheet, and it is amazing, especially if used. to hold you accountable and keep you on track, whether you have a co-founder or not. So I'm glad that you're considering applying. Are there any other questions?
Yes. Quick question. I am okay, so I'm opening up a peer specialist company and I'm ready to open it up like right now if I can get some legal advice like on contracts and billing. Is there something like is there a way to set up like an appointment just to meet and like maybe talk for a couple minutes and like network right away, or would it have to wait until January, February for the Accelerator program?
I put a link in and I just typed it in, so I didn't actually make it a link. But one thing I would recommend is that you go to the UW Law and Entrepreneurship Clinic.
I am a student at CVTC for entrepreneurship too.
Okay. Yeah, so and with the Law and Entrepreneurship Clinic, they can give you legal advice and it's free. It might take a little bit longer, just because they're a free resource. So it might take a few weeks before you get your answers or whatever. But if there's other things you want to talk about, yeah, please feel free to reach out. It doesn't have to be, like I said, VentureHome. The idea is bigger than just the Accelerator program. So feel free to reach out and we'll see what other connections we can make for you.
Yeah, I just want to underscore that we don't want, we're here to serve anyone. This Seed Accelerator has been a big piece of what we've been doing the last few months, but that Get Assistance tab is really for anyone, no matter what kind of business, we will always try to help. And so I'd love that this makes it easy for people to reach out to ask a question. I know I would get some of those before and I would always try to help whoever contacted me, but this gives people an easy way if they don't know who to contact or who to ask. We are here to help. So
Cool. Thank you very much.
I'm not seeing any other hands raised and no other unmutes going on. So this current slide has our contact information. Email is probably the best way to get a hold of any of us. You can email all three of us, or you can just pick and choose, and we all talk anyway. So that works too. So feel free to jot down the email. Otherwise, this session is recorded and will be pushed out via Startup Eau Claire, so you will have access to this in the future. Otherwise, we want to thank you for your time today and your interest in WiSys VentureHome Eau Claire. Like was just discussed, we're here to help you in any way we can. And if that's part of the Seed Accelerator too, we encourage you to apply. And so, yeah, we thank you for your time today. One exciting thing we can end with is that we're looking to do a gift card giveaway, $20 to a gift card. I don't know if Anna and Adira know about this, but so it's part of Startup Week and the sponsorship with Rail Credit Union. And so I think the way we'll do it today is I want you to open up your participants tab, and the first person that can answer these questions, you will have to unmute yourself to answer. Hit the raise your hand function so I can see who pops up first. But my question is, and whoever answers first correctly will get the $20 gift card, is please tell me the names of the businesses of our panel. So what is the name of Jim's business and what is the name of Aaron's business? Ready, go.
Aaron and I can't answer, I'm assuming.
Oh, Aaron raised his hand.
Yeah, I raised my hand. As soon as I heard Jim talk, I'm like, I'm raising my hand.
All right,
No,
Sheila.
no, I won't answer.
Sheila, what do you got for us?
Upstream and Alo Photo.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sheila. You get the $20 gift card. Adam, I know you're on here. Should we have Sheila email us, or how do we do that part?
Yeah, Sheila, if you could just chat me, Adam Akala, your email address, I'll get you on the list, and then we'll be shipping those gift cards out next week.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Sheila. Thanks for playing. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any additional questions or need assistance with anything. And yeah, we hope you enjoy the rest of your day and encourage you to take part in any other Startup Eau Claire Week events going on. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, we have a question from Anthony. Anthony, are you still here?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. That might be something that the UW Law and Entrepreneurship Clinic offers. I'm not aware of that.
No, there is a way. Students can get it waived. I know my students do, and I'm pretty sure it's not just university students. So
So I can get that waived since I'm a student at CVTC in the entrepreneurship program?
Yeah, I can send you a link. I will have to look it up. I don't have it handy enough to pop it in here right now. But do I have your contact information, or do you want to shoot me an email and then I'll send that to you?
Yes, please. Here's my email. I just put it in there. It's the animal one.
Oh, okay, got it. Copying it right now. Okay, so I will send you the link that my students have used for that.
Awesome, thank
More
you.
information, you bet.
You guys have a good day. I like this. I like this presentation. I've already signed up for a few more.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for being here.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Great.
It's a wrap, huh?
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elaine, I'll also check Eventbrite and see if I've got her contact info through there.
Okay.
So.
Would it be possible to maybe send like a